What's going on, everyone? This is just a quick update on this channel and on the future of my YouTubing career and where we'll be heading. I want to thank you all for viewing my channel and for viewing my videos and for subscribing and liking my content. I would like to just give you a quick update that I've created a new channel, Revolutionary Road. It's pictured here on screen, and I will be going forward, I will be posting all my new videos on this channel, at least those that are documentaries, those that are historical focused, those that are based upon my research and my areas of study. So I myself have just graduated from University of Waterloo. I have a master's degree in history. I studied um, basically understanding social Darwinian beliefs, understanding anarchism, understanding things like race relations, things like how imperialistic ideologies and how white racial hierarchies have impacted minority communities and have impacted anti-establishment groups, basically civil rights organizations, black power groups, how the state has responded towards those groups, and how the ideas within white supremacism and the ideas within white racial hierarchies have kind of created and molded the foreign policies within American society, but also domestic policies, elements of social control, the prison industrial complex, uh, dominant cultural narratives and political rhetoric, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of where I focus a lot of my research and my study, but I also focus on imperialism and how imperialistic ideologies influence American foreign policy. So how countries in the world and continents like Africa, Latin America, and some so forth, parts of Southeast Asia, how they are kind of influenced, or how the influence of imperialistic ideologies impacts foreign policy towards those nations, and how basically those regions are being basically impoverished by foreign policies that are basically created to sustain white supremacism and white control and white rule in these regions, and to maintain a system of white racial hierarchy. Now, I don't want to go further into that now. That's just simply my research. That's what I study. If you want to learn more about that, you can read my books. You can kind of follow me on these channels. You can see my updates. You can see my videos, and you can see what I mean when I say those things. I'm not going to extrapolate here, because this is just simply an update video and simply just a quick introduction to my new kind of focus and what I'm going to be doing on this channel. Well, I should say my news channel, Revolutionary Road. And the video link and the channel link will be in the description below. So if you want to check it out, just go click on that, or go over to this channel here, pictured on screen, Revolutionary Road. You'll see my new Parchment Farm video is up, basically focusing on the creation of Parchment Farm and how that connects to the paternalistic, southern paternalistic plantation system, and how that connects to the prison industrial complex of today. I will be making another video about Angola, and I also will be releasing another video about, well, I'll basically just be reintroducing my Kropotkin video onto this channel. So I basically would like everybody to subscribe to this channel if they could. That's my Revolutionary Road channel, just so everybody knows. I have a few other channels. Like I said, I make kind of football videos. I do a little bit of streaming here and there, but for the most part, I'm going to be focused on putting out content, focused on my research, focused on my areas of interest in history and sociology and in political science and in philosophy. So my main focuses, like I said, will be anarchism and race relations. But I also will do any videos that anybody wants. If anybody has any topics or any narratives, any films, any news articles that they want me to discuss, or any events, any historical events, historical time periods that they want me to discuss, I will happily make videos on request based on your guys' likes, your guys' interest. I'm here for you. I really myself have a little bit of time to work on this, but for the most part, I'm going to be doing my own things. But if you guys have ideas or anything to make this channel better, to improve my research, if anybody has any ideas, or wants to make better videos for me, I don't have the best quality technology. I'm basically just using picture and sound to relay my messages to you guys. It's not the best video quality. It's not the best graphic design, you could say, or what do you call it? CS. Computer. I don't have a lot of research or a lot of technical abilities. I'm sorry about that. I apologize for that. My focus is in research and in history, and I study. That's where my focus is. It's not in technical ability, so I do apologize for the lack of technical skill. But overall, I think that the messages in my videos are the most important, and the kind of history that's kind of a lot of times forgotten or neglected in a lot of aspects or a lot of places in the world. And I would just like to ask that those that view my videos or those that want to contribute to this channel, go over to my new channel, Revolutionary Road, and give me a subscribe there and check out my videos there. I will be reposting my Kropotkin video on that channel, and I will be, like I said, going forward, I will be basically only posting on this channel in terms of like history and in terms of like philosophy, politics, and all those areas, and kind of like what matters, what really matters in the world. All the other shit is just, it's all irrelevant. It's none of it really matters. It's all cosmetic. The only things that really matter are what's happening in the world and how we can change it, or how we can influence others to have a better, more positive outlook on life, and more positive outlook on society as a whole and in general. But we do need to challenge narratives. We do need to challenge dominant cultural narratives. We do need to challenge political narratives. We do need to challenge ideological frameworks and imperialistic ideologies that's so often seep into our cultural narratives, our popular cultural narratives, our societal narratives, just kind of our media representations, and the way in which we look at the world as a society. And a lot of times we are being conditioned by our media, by our television, by our media, by our music, by our computers and internet, and all of these alternative medias. Everything. It's all one big tool to condition everybody to the dominant cultural narrative. And as long as we can expose the kind of hierarchical undertones that are pervading throughout these cultural narratives, we can at least come to a consensus as to what the real goal of these narratives are, and what the true reality or truth within them is, which is a lot of times not much truth at all, but simply a veil to reinforce certain social and racial hierarchical mechanisms that have been consistently utilized to create class solidarity and class and racial solidarity, particularly to basically reinforce white rule and white domination within American society, but also in a global context as well. When we talk about countries within Africa, Southern African countries, and their influence and the colonial influence on those countries, or the influences within Latin America and the American colonial influences there, and how they still dictate policies today. These things are all relevant. And anybody that thinks that they aren't are people that simply just do not understand politics. They do not understand global historical trajectories, and how history has been influenced by imperialistic doctrines and influenced by white supremacist narratives. Regardless of whether you want to accept that or not, that's essentially the history of the world, of most of the world, is they have been influenced, controlled, created, and colonized, and then that influence has been redirected towards the modern day in terms of how those societies have been created, how those societies have been influenced, how those societies have been demonized and sanctioned, or basically made to seem less successful than they are. For instance, take a lot of African nations that are the richest nations in terms of natural resources, but yet the poorest nations in the world in terms of actual economies. It's not necessarily due to the failure on the nations themselves, but as a result of the corporations and the ways in which the social control mechanisms in those societies have been created from the propping up of colonial and ethnic regimes that were essentially connected to the colonial hierarchies of old. So these things need to be understood. They cannot just be brushed aside as being mere mere facts of history, because they're really not facts at all. They're misconstrued realities that are being portrayed to you as fact. But in all reality, we need to kind of question our own beliefs, question our own historical narratives, and question our own understanding of how the world has come to the place we are today, and how so many in the world suffer, and yet the most opulent, the most affluent people in society are those that are the most ignorant, and those that basically look at the world as their kind of oyster to be played with, and it's not that. Well, most of the world suffers from their ignorance. And ignorance is bliss, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it will not last forever. And those that have been suffering, those that are the most downtrodden, those that are the majority of the world's population that are neglected, or that are forced to suffer from horrendous traditions, from oppressive working conditions that are forced upon by our corporations, by our need, by our want, by our continued necessity or necessitation of goods that we basically are the consumers of. And don't get me wrong, the world is starting to consume more and more every day, but in reality, in the past 20 years, we have been the largest consumers, and those that create and those that have suffered the toil of labor and the toil of oppressive corporate regimes are essentially backed by our purchasing power and our desire for goods. And a lot of times those goods are things that we don't really need, let's be honest. Superfluous, materialistic possessions that are really worthless. And the only reason that we support this system is because we really don't understand how the system is run and how the world operates. But the purpose of this channel is to expose the kind of elite organizations that control the world, not necessarily like the Bilderbergers or the Rothschilds or that, but the kind of racial hierarchical structures and the ways in which the influence of imperialism and the influence of colonial regimes and their kind of outlook, and it's really capitalistic in nature. And we have to understand that social Darwinian beliefs and capitalistic ideologies really have greatly influenced the drives for racial hierarchies, because they are perpetuated by the same underlying influences. And that's why we need to look at them as being one and the same. So what I would like to just simply end this video off with doing is giving a quick introduction to what's going to be happening in this channel, which is going to be bringing out news channels. We're going to be talking about special reports. I'm going to be talking about, like I said, the prison industrial complex, the growth of kind of blood resources, blood minerals, the growth of the new slave systems that are happening within the world. We're talking about like prostitution rings in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia. Talking about the slave systems that happen within the African societies and within Indian societies. We're looking at kind of the neo slave system in China. Basically, all of the corporate slave systems and the ways in which our opulence and our desire for product is fueling the corporate greed and the corporate oppressive regimes in the world. For instance, like the Nike, like Nike, and their basically putting down of uprisings and basically like revolts at their plants in Indonesia. Sending in the U.S. Army, working with the Indonesian Army to put down these rebellions in order to secure the Nike corporate industry. So these are things that we need to understand. These are all factors that come together and all kind of have one underlying cause, and that's that they're all driven by the need to uphold white rule in a lot of these regions and to uphold racial hierarchy. So I hope you can tune into my new channel, and I hope you'll give it a shot. I hope to see you guys soon, and have a good day.